Hello and welcome back to the Weitzypod. It's July 1st. We're recording at 8 p.m. and it's been a while since we recorded a podcast, and a couple of things have happened since then. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they won the NBA championship. I went on a trip to Germany and I saw a day of the Bad Homburger Open, and also the NBA free agency has started, and we're going to talk about all three of those. But I'm going to start with my trip and my time in Frankfurt, actually more specifically, Bad Homburg. I went to the tennis tournament, the Bad Homburger Open, and I went with my little brother. We had a day ticket for the semifinals match. And for those of you who don't know, the Bad Homburger Open is a women's tennis tournament that is played on grass as part of a warm-up for Wimbledon, which has actually just started. Um, but I'm going to take it a step back. Bad Homburg is a city in Germany, northeast of Frankfurt, and just looking at it at a glance, you might not think that there's much to it other than some natural beauty and maybe a castle and a tower. Um, but there is a lot to it, and it happens to be the first place that golf and tennis were introduced to the European continent by the British. And like I said, there's a ton of natural beauty. It sits at the foot of these beautiful hills with forest covering parts of it, and the other parts is like big open fields. And then between that, you have different collections of cities and communities. Um, and it's an old city. It has a ton of history. There is a castle that sits in the middle of Bad Homburg, and it's I think the main tower there was built before 1200, and it also happens to be where I was born. So I've been to Bad Homburg many times. I have family that lives there, and I actually went with my brother to go visit our grandma. So during this time, the Bad Homburg Open was happening, and I thought we have to go see it. Uh, and I want to give you a couple things about this tournament that I thought were really cool. I hadn't been to a live tennis tournament before, but Nick and I, who you guys, Nick has been on the podcast, you've seen him and heard him. One of the things we like to do together is play tennis. And last week, the week before we left, we played twice. I happened to win both games. That's neither here nor there. Both matches that we played. But the Bad Homburg Open was really sweet. So it's a temporary setup. In Bad Homburg, there's something called the Kurpark, which is basically the main park where they have some fields and some beautiful forestry, and it's there's actually natural springs there for some mineral water, and it's a place that had drawn visitors from all over the world in the past thousand years. And they set up this tennis tournament to happen right in the middle of the park. So they set up the bleachers, a bunch of tents that had drinks and were selling merch, and then a ton of vendors and sponsors. And not only did they set up the bleachers, but they had extremely professional equipment everywhere, cameras. They put up temporary like jumbotron screen, and it was really cool to see. And this was a fairly, I'd say, compared to a Grand Slam, it's a very small event and small in terms of the people who are allowed to go. And I would say there's probably 400, 400, 500 people who can sit in the center court stands. And Nick and I, we were in row 16. So we're really watching these athletes very close. And it was really cool. We got to see the first semifinal match was Paulini. She was, oh, well, we'll get to that in a second. Paulini versus Iga Swiatek. And the second match was Jessica Pegula and Linda Noskova. And the first match between Yasmin Paolini and Iga Swiatek um, was We were very excited. Paulini is this small Italian woman who is super quick and I guess plays really, really well from the long game, playing from the baseline. And Iga Swiatek, she it was clearly bigger and stronger, and she played a much more powerful game. Um, and really, it looked like Iga was just she could tell right away that her power and speed was going to overwhelm Paulini, and it felt like she said, "Okay, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna assert my dominance right now, and I'm just not gonna let up." And that's pretty much how it went. There was one part in the first set where Paulini looked like she was going to be able to break Swiatek, and she had done everything right in this one play. And she was up by the net, and I'm forgetting now, but she either hit it into the net or she hit it just soft enough whereas Swiatek could get it back on the other side. But that one felt like when she needed to put away, and it felt like a big momentum swing. But Swiatek won in straight sets and made it look pretty easy. And then the second match was between Jessica Pegula, who was the number one seed for this tournament. She's an American. She is from Buffalo, New York. And this woman, Linda Noskova, she is 20 years old, and I th believe she's from the Czech Republic. And I should mention Pegula is 33, 31. She's in her 30s, but she's over 10 years, she's 10 years older than her opponent was. And this one as well looked like it was going to be very one-sided. Noskova came out and they looked to be pretty similar size, but Noskova just had um, an incredible serve that it felt like she aced Pegula like 15 times in the first set. And they actually did go to a tiebreak in the first set, and Noskova ended up winning that set. And then Pegula fell down in the second set, and it just felt like, man, she's just getting overwhelmed by the serve. And then the tide started turning. Pegula figured out how to return that serve, and once they got one or two shots into the rally, it was a level playing field, and then Pagula would win most of those points. And it was really crazy to see how she stole the momentum. She won the second set, and that one was pretty close. But then she took that momentum and won the third set like 6-1 or 6-2. And that was really cool to see because tennis, the way it's set up with its scoring, it just feels like momentum can shift so quickly and each point like really matters. Like I was thinking about how to explain how it like, pairs with compares to basketball. I mean basketball you can go by twos and threes, um, and like you can imagine what the outcome can be if like a few plays go one way or the other. With tennis, be a few points can really decide an entire set, and it sometimes comes down to timing, sometimes comes down to rhythm. It's just really interesting, and as someone who has been watching tennis for a long time, it's always like it's you never know like what can happen. There's always some like twists or turns, and just it's really awesome to see players like persevere and keep that in mind. Yeah, so these were two really great tennis matches, and what's crazy about tennis as a spectator sport is you are supposed to be silent while it's going on as a spectator. As soon as the player has the ball and they're ready to serve, the arena is supposed to be quiet, and you're not allowed to move either. So if people wanted to like get up from their seats or go back to their seats, you have to wait until the game is over. And for the second match, it felt like there was so many fewer people in the stands, and I t turned to Nick and I said, why aren't people coming to watch this match? Like, what's going on?" And then we realized it's because they needed to wait for the first game to be over so that people could get to their seat. So And that's like I'm comparing it to basketball again, where if you're in a stadium, you can walk around freely. You can go to the restroom. You like it's not going to bother the players, and it just feels like it's a bit more intimate. It's more of a respect. Respect is maybe the wrong word, but it's honoring the game and the players, and really making it about them and not about the viewer's experience. Like it's a privilege to get to see this. Um, and I thought that was really cool. And like also, in NBA games and other sports, they're blasting music at any time that the play's not going on. This was much more like calm, and yes, they played some ads on the jumbo screen, but they weren't like had like DJ blaring music in between everything. It was very it felt like we were part of it, and I thought that was a really interesting thing. I didn't really think much about it when you're watching it like from your living room. Like yes, you hear the referee asking the spectators to be quiet, but you don't really ever think about that. So after that semifinals day came the final, and Nick and I weren't fortunate enough to watch that final, but I was thinking, oh, Pagula versus Swiatek, this is going to be really good. They're both like Swiatek is powerful, Pagula is really good at figuring out strong serve. She just did that against Noskova in the round before, and it's going to be quite a good match. And apparently, it went by pretty quickly. It was Pegula won in straight sets, and I think Swiatek had 19 unforced errors in the first set. And like that, if you make unforced errors at that rate in tennis, like you're likely not going to win. And Pegula held serve the entire match, and Swiatek, it seemed like she just wasn't able to um, really get her rhythm going or get her stroke the way she wanted it. I watched the highlights, and it just seemed like Pagula wasn't making mistakes, and Swiatek did. And when you're solid like that, you're going to do well. And so Pagula, who was the number one seed in this tournament, she ended up winning it. And very ironic, um, I was getting ready to do this podcast today, and Nick sends me a screenshot of his phone, and there's a like an ESPN notification, and it said Pagula lost in the first round at Wimbledon in straight sets to someone I'd never heard of. So all this like dominance or like great play at the Bad Homburg Open in preparation for Wimbledon uh, is all for nothing, really, because she lost in the first round today, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, Bad Homburg was a great time. It was really cool to watch tennis. One thing I wanted to say too is like in tennis you play on different surfaces. There's the hard court, there's clay, and then there's also grass, which is what this tournament was. And grass is so interesting to me because they don't replant or maintain. I mean, they maintain it, but they don't yeah, the grass doesn't grow back quick enough between matches. So by the end of the tournament, when there's been 16 matches, 12 matches, whatever it is, played on the same court, the areas where people are standing and where they move most often, they're worn down, and it's like dirt. And it really is interesting to me because that like the ball, when the rate and the velocity that these players hit the ball, for it to hit a part of the court that is not perfectly set up or is perfectly maintained, it can bounce in all kinds of directions. And it's something that I was really wondering about. Like, how much does that affect the play? Because you can see it if you watch TV. We could see it there in person. Like, the court is worn down, and I think it makes playing on grass. It gives it just a little bit more of variability or variance. And yeah, it's fascinating. These women were really good, and it's just so fun to watch players who can play really well. Um, let's talk about the NBA a little bit because we didn't do a podcast right after the finals. Um, Having a couple weeks now to think about what happened, I guess one week, 1.5 weeks. I feel sad because I don't think we're ever going to see this Pacers team uh, back in a position to win a championship or even do what they did this year. This playoffs was amazing. We had so many fun matchups, and I really came out of the finals thinking, man, it really seemed like Indiana was set up to complete their Cinderella story and to steal this NBA championship from the Thunder on the road in game seven. Tyrese had hit three out of his first four three-point attempts. He was cooking, and it was the exact start that they needed to have a chance to win in OKC in game seven. And then his Achilles went, and even though they were up at half, it just seemed like, it's like the longer you play, the more the needle is moving towards OKC in that regard. And it just felt like we were denied of an amazing, historic, all-time result and series. And while I'll always look back on this series and think like, oh my gosh, like the Thunder were incredible. They were really good. And the Pacers rose to the occasion and they met them at the top and it was neck and neck. And it was an insanely good matchup. Um, I'm always going to be wondering what, what if? Like, what if Tyrese is able to play? And what makes it really painful is that he's going to be out next season. The Bucks just got Miles Turner from Indiana. And the rest of the East is coming. Like Orlando has retooled. The Hawks have made some great moves. New York is going to be good again, and it just feels like Indiana's window is closing. We'll see what happens with them in like when Tyrese is back, and maybe they'll set up and make some moves that will keep them competitive when he comes back. But my goodness, what a run through the playoffs they had. And I loved that Indiana team. They're scrappy. They were fearless. They made some insane plays. They played such a unique style. And I really think that they could have won the championship, and the way that they would have had to do it would have made them one of the all-time stories. So, uh, I'm that said, I'm happy for the Thunder. They're awesome team. Like those young guys, they stuck to it all year. They're so professional and so mature, and I'm happy for the OKC fans. Like it's just a great organization. I'm a big fan of Sam Presti. Um, Shea is just cooler than the other side of the pillow. And yeah, so I'm happy for the Thunder. I will always think back to this first Thunder championship and think the Pacers, though, they could have potentially gotten it. All right. Free agency has just started, and I want to do a longer episode on free agency. But there's a couple of things that have happened that I do want to talk about. Number one is LeBron James. He opted into the Lakers. His option with the Lakers, his contract with the Lakers. He opted in, and then Rich Paul came out with a statement. Those of you who are in the know have probably heard it. There's one thing that stood out to me that I haven't heard other people talking about, but they said something along the lines of we were really grateful and happy with the partnership that we had with the Bus family. Um, And in the whole statement, they failed to mention the new owners of the Lakers. And like they could have so easily said, looking forward to continuing the partnership with, I'm forgetting the people who bought it, but with the new owners. The fact that they omitted any mention of this new ownership group um, is quite odd to me. And I don't know what, like LeBron doesn't really have a ton of many moves here, but it does feel like he wants to leave, which is surprising to me. What isn't surprising to me is that the Lakers have not done well in free agency or with like that's something that we've seen for the past 10 years. Um, but the extra part to this is that as a Warriors fan, I'm thinking like, why aren't the Warriors getting any free agents? Why aren't people interested in signing with them and playing with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler? And maybe it's a money thing. Um, but the Warriors have been incredibly quiet, and we've all heard that LeBron James wants to play with Steph Curry before his career is over. And I'm just wondering, and I'm selfishly hoping that the Warriors and LeBron somehow create the option for him to join the Warriors and to play with Steph Curry. That nothing would make me happier at this point in time. Both of my favorite players in the league getting to play together on the same team, basically like the Team USA duo, uh, playing together again. I would love to see that. I don't know if don't know why that would be the case, but I've just been noticing the Warriors being really quiet, and LeBron's statement um, felt really odd and feels like he wants to move. One other quick thing is Kevon Looney, one of the more beloved Warriors, a staple in the Warriors organization. He'll always be a Warrior to me. He's signed with the Pelicans. Good for him. He's getting his money. But talk about a consistent and professional player for the Warriors over the past, what, like 8 to 10 years. Um, we love you, Kevon. Thank you, and all the best. But yeah, I'm excited to speak more about the free agency. A lot of cool things have happened. We're gonna have some more guests coming on the podcast soon. But that is it for now. Hope everyone's enjoying their summer, and we'll talk soon. All right, bye.